I sat in stunned silence, trying to process the audacity of my daughter's demand. It had been 9 long years since we'd last spoken, and now she was standing in my living room, acting like she owned the place. I thought back to the day she'd left, the hurt and anger still fresh in my mind. We'd had a huge argument, one that had ended with her packing her bags and storming out of the house. I tried to reach out to her over the years, but she'd made it clear that she wanted nothing to do with me. But I'd moved on, built a new life, and even started a small business on the side. I'd worked hard to put the past behind me, to focus on the present and the future. And then, just a few days ago, I'd received a letter from my late uncle's lawyer, informing me that I was the sole beneficiary of his $200,000 inheritance. I'd been in shock, unable to believe my luck. My uncle had always been kind to me, but I'd never expected to inherit his wealth. I'd thought about all the things I could do with the money, all the ways I could improve my life and the lives of those around me. But now, as I looked at my daughter, I realized that she had other plans. She wanted the money, and she was willing to do whatever it took to get it. I felt a surge of anger and resentment, but I tried to keep my cool. I knew that I had to think carefully, to consider all my options before making a decision. "What makes you think you deserve this money?" I asked her, trying to keep my voice steady. She smiled, a cold, calculating smile. "I deserve it because I'm your daughter," she said. "And I need it because I'm in a difficult financial situation." I raised an eyebrow. "What kind of situation?" I asked. She hesitated, looking uncomfortable. "I owe some people money," she said. "And I need this inheritance to pay them off." I felt a pang of disappointment and sadness. My daughter, the woman I'd once loved and cherished, was now a stranger to me. She was willing to do whatever it took to get what she wanted, even if it meant hurting me. I knew that I had to make a decision, to choose between giving her the money and standing up for myself. But as I looked at her, I realized that I wasn't sure what to do. Part of me wanted to help her, to give her the money and hope that she would change her ways. But another part of me wanted to stand firm, to tell her that she couldn't just waltz back into my life and demand money. As I sat there, weighing my options, I knew that I had to be careful. I had to think about what was best for me, and for my future. But as I looked at my daughter, I couldn't help but feel a sense of uncertainty and doubt. I sat there, my mind racing with thoughts and emotions. I didn't know what to do, or what to say. I felt like I was being pulled in 2 different directions, with one part of me wanting to help my daughter and the other part wanting to protect myself. As I sat there, my daughter started to get agitated. She paced back and forth across the room, her eyes flashing with anger. "Come on, Dad," she said. "I don't have all day. Are you going to give me the money or not?" I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. I knew that I couldn't make a decision like this in a state of emotional turmoil. I needed to think clearly and carefully, to consider all my options and the potential consequences. "I need some time to think about it," I said finally. "Can you come back tomorrow and we'll discuss it further?" My daughter stopped pacing and turned to face me. Her eyes narrowed and her face twisted with anger. "No way," she said. "I need the money now. If you don't give it to me, I'll make sure everyone knows what you've been hiding all these years." I felt a surge of fear at her words. I knew that she was capable of doing some pretty terrible things, and the thought of her revealing my secrets to the world was unbearable. "What are you talking about?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. My daughter smiled, a cold and calculating smile. "I know all about your little business on the side," she said. "And I know all about the money you've been hiding away. If you don't give me what I want, I'll make sure everyone knows about it." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. How did she know about my business? And how did she know about the money? I thought I'd been so careful, so secretive. "Who told you?" I demanded. My daughter just laughed. "That's not important," she said. "What's important is that I know, and I'm not afraid to use it against you. So, are you going to give me the money or not?" I was trapped. I didn't know what to do, or what to say. I felt like I was being held hostage by my own daughter. As I sat there, trying to think of a way out, my daughter started to get more and more agitated. She paced back and forth across the room, her eyes flashing with anger. I could see the tension building up inside her, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before she exploded. Suddenly, she stopped pacing and turned to face me. Her eyes were blazing with anger, and her face was twisted with rage. "I've had enough of this," she said. "I'm going to give you one last chance to give me the money. If you don't, I'll make sure you regret it." I felt a surge of fear at her words. I knew that I was in grave danger, and I didn't know how to get out of it. "Okay," I said finally. "I'll give you the money. Just please, don't do anything to hurt me." My daughter smiled, a cold and calculating smile. "I'll take the money," she said. "But don't think for a second that this is over. This is just the beginning." As she turned to leave, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. I had avoided a confrontation, at least for the time being. But as I watched her walk out the door, I couldn't shake the feeling that I had just made a terrible mistake. I had given in to her demands, and I had no idea what the consequences would be. I sat there, feeling anxious and uncertain, as the door closed behind my daughter. I knew that I had to do something, but I didn't know what. As I sat there, trying to think of a way out, I heard a noise behind me. I turned to see my daughter standing in the doorway, a sly smile spreading across her face. "Oh, and one more thing," she said. "You're going to have to sign over the house to me too. I need a place to live, and this house is perfect." I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Sign over the house? She couldn't be serious. But as I looked into her eyes, I saw something there that chilled me to the bone. I saw a cold, calculating determination, a determination to get what she wanted no matter what the cost. And I knew that I was in grave danger. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut again. Sign over the house? She couldn't be serious. But as I looked into her eyes, I saw that same cold, calculating determination. I knew that I had to think fast, to come up with a way to stop her. But my mind was a blank. I couldn't think of anything. "You can't be serious," I said finally, trying to keep my voice steady. "This is my home. I'm not going to sign it over to you." My daughter just laughed. "Oh, come on, Dad," she said. "You're not going to play the sentimental card with me. I know you're just trying to hold on to the past. But it's time to let go. This house is worth a lot of money, and I need it. So, are you going to sign it over to me or not?" I felt a surge of anger at her words. How could she be so heartless? This was my home, the place where I'd raised her and her mother. It was full of memories, full of love and laughter. But to her, it was just a commodity, something to be used and discarded. "No," I said finally, my voice firm. "I'm not going to sign it over to you. You'll have to find somewhere else to live." My daughter's face twisted with anger. "Fine," she said. "If that's the way you want it, then so be it. But don't think for a second that this is over. I'll make sure you regret not giving me what I want." And with that, she turned and stormed out of the house, leaving me feeling shaken and scared. I didn't know what she was capable of, but I knew that I had to be careful. I locked the door behind her and tried to calm myself down, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease that had settled over me. I knew that I had to do something, but I didn't know what. As I stood there, trying to think of a way to protect myself and my home, I heard a knock at the door. I froze, my heart racing with fear. Who could it be? I cautiously made my way to the door and looked through the peephole. It was a delivery man, holding a large package. I opened the door and took the package from him, signing for it as he handed me a clipboard. As I watched him walk away, I felt a sense of relief wash over me. Maybe this was just a normal delivery, maybe my daughter hadn't sent someone to hurt me. But as I turned to go back inside, I saw something that made my blood run cold. The package was addressed to me, but there was no return address. And as I turned it over in my hands, I felt a strange weight to it, a weight that seemed out of proportion to its size. I knew that I had to open it, to see what was inside. But as I did, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was making a terrible mistake. I carefully cut open the package, my heart racing with fear. And as I looked inside, I saw something that made my blood run cold. It was a small, intricately carved box, made of a dark, polished wood. And on the lid, in small, elegant letters, was a message. "You should have given me what I wanted." I felt a surge of fear at the words. Who had sent this? And what did they want from me? I knew that I had to be careful, that I had to think of a way to protect myself. But as I stood there, staring at the box, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was in grave danger. And then, as I looked closer at the box, I saw something that made my heart skip a beat. The message on the lid was not the only thing that was written there. There was a small, almost imperceptible line, a line that seemed to be a code. I knew that I had to decipher it, to figure out what it meant. But as I stood there, staring at the box, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was running out of time. I felt a surge of adrenaline as I stared at the box, my mind racing with possibilities. What did the message mean? And what was the code trying to tell me? I knew I had to figure it out, but my mind was a blank. I decided to take a closer look at the box, to see if there were any other clues. As I turned it over in my hands, I noticed that the wood was smooth to the touch, but there were tiny imperfections in the grain. I ran my fingers over the surface, feeling for any hidden compartments or markings. And then, I saw it. A small, almost imperceptible seam in the wood. I pressed on it, and a tiny panel slid open, revealing a small piece of paper inside. I pulled it out, my heart racing with excitement. The paper was blank, except for a single sentence. Look again at the message. I felt a surge of frustration. What did it mean? Was I supposed to look at the message on the lid again? I turned the box over, studying the message. You should have given me what I wanted. I read it again and again, trying to decipher any hidden meaning. And then, it hit me. The message wasn't just a message. It was a riddle. I thought back to my conversation with my daughter. She had been angry, but there was something more to it. She had been trying to tell me something, but I hadn't listened. I remembered the way she had smiled, the way she had said, "You'll regret not giving me what I want." I realized that she had been trying to send me a message that I had ignored. I felt a surge of fear as I realized that I was in grave danger. My daughter was not just trying to get money from me. She was trying to get revenge. I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to make her next move. I had to take control of the situation. I decided to investigate my daughter's past, to see if there were any clues as to what she was planning. I started by looking through old photographs and letters, searching for any mention of my daughter's friends or acquaintances. And then, I saw it. A photograph of my daughter with a group of people I didn't recognize. They were all smiling and laughing, but there was something sinister about the photo. I felt a surge of unease as I realized that my daughter was involved with some very bad people. I knew I had to be careful, but I couldn't just sit around and do nothing. I decided to dig deeper, to see if I could uncover any more information about my daughter's activities. I spent the rest of the day researching, trying to find any connection between my daughter and the mysterious box. And then, just as I was about to give up, I found it. A small article in a local newspaper about a group of people who had been involved in some shady dealings. And there, in the middle of the article, was my daughter's name. I felt a surge of fear as I realized that my daughter was involved in something much bigger than I had ever imagined. I knew I had to act fast, to protect myself and my home. But as I sat there, reading the article, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was already too late. I felt a chill run down my spine as I read the article. My daughter's name was mentioned alongside several others, all of whom were accused of being involved in a large-scale embezzlement scheme. I couldn't believe it. My daughter, the sweet and innocent girl I had raised, was now a suspect in a major crime. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me as I thought about all the times I had trusted her, all the times I had given her money and resources. Had she been using me all along? I pushed the thought aside and continued reading the article. The scheme was elaborate, involving several businesses and individuals. It seemed that my daughter had been involved for some time, using her charm and wit to convince people to invest in the scheme. I felt a surge of anger and betrayal as I read on. How could she do this to me? To herself? I knew I had to act fast. I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to get caught. I had to do something to protect myself and my reputation. I decided to call a lawyer, someone who could help me navigate the situation and protect my interests. I spent the rest of the day on the phone, talking to lawyers and trying to get advice. But every time I thought I had a plan, something else would come up. The more I learned, the more I realized how deep the scheme went. My daughter was just a small part of it, but she had played a crucial role. I felt a sense of dread as I thought about what could happen to her. Would she go to jail? Would she be able to get out of this mess? I didn't know, but I knew I had to try and help her. As the day drew to a close, I felt exhausted and overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do or where to turn. All I knew was that I had to keep fighting, for myself and for my daughter. I went to bed that night with a sense of unease, knowing that the next day would bring more challenges and more uncertainty. But I was determined to face whatever came next, head on. The next morning, I woke up feeling a sense of resolve. I was going to get to the bottom of this scheme, no matter what it took. I started by making a list of all the people involved, including my daughter. I then began to research each of them, looking for any connections or patterns. As I delved deeper, I started to notice something strange. Several of the people involved had connections to a large corporation, one that was known for its shady dealings. I felt a surge of excitement as I realized that I might be onto something. I spent the rest of the day digging deeper, following a trail of clues and connections. And then, just as I was about to give up, I stumbled upon something big. A hidden document, buried deep in the corporation's files. It was a memo, detailing a plan to embezzle millions of dollars from investors. And at the top of the memo, was my daughter's name. I felt a wave of shock wash over me as I read the words. My daughter was more involved than I had ever imagined. She was one of the masterminds behind the scheme. I didn't know what to do. Part of me wanted to confront her, to demand answers and justice. But another part of me wanted to protect her, to help her get out of this mess. I didn't know what to do, but I knew I had to act fast. The memo was just the beginning, and I knew that there was more to come. I felt a sense of unease as I read the memo, my mind racing with questions and concerns. How could my daughter be involved in something like this? And what did she hope to gain from it? I knew I had to talk to her, to get to the bottom of this and understand what was going on. But as I looked around the room, I realized that I was alone. My daughter was nowhere to be found, and I had no idea where she might be. I felt a surge of fear as I thought about all the possibilities. Was she in danger? Was she hiding something from me? I knew I had to find her, to talk to her and get some answers. I quickly grabbed my phone and started dialing her number, my heart racing with anxiety. But as I waited for her to answer, I realized that something was off. The phone rang and rang, but she didn't pick up. I tried calling again, but it went straight to voicemail. I felt a sense of panic rising up inside me, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if something had happened to her? What if she was in trouble? I knew I had to act fast, to find her and get some answers. I quickly grabbed my keys and ran out the door, determined to find my daughter and get to the bottom of this. As I drove through the streets, my mind was racing with thoughts and fears. What was going on? Where was my daughter? And what did she have to do with this embezzlement scheme? I didn't know, but I was determined to find out. I drove to her apartment, my heart pounding in my chest. But as I arrived, I realized that she wasn't there. The door was locked, and there was no sign of her anywhere. I felt a surge of fear and anxiety, my mind racing with possibilities. Where could she be? And what was going on? I knew I had to keep looking, to find her and get some answers. I quickly got back in my car and started driving, my mind racing with thoughts and fears. As I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My daughter was in trouble, and I had to find her before it was too late. I drove for hours, searching for any sign of her. But as the sun began to set, I realized that I was running out of time. I had to find her, and fast. I knew I had to think of something, to come up with a plan to find her and get some answers. And then, just as I was about to give up, I had an idea. I remembered a friend of hers, someone who might know where she was. I quickly grabbed my phone and started dialing, my heart racing with hope. As I waited for the friend to answer, I felt a sense of tension building up inside me. What would I find out? And where was my daughter? I knew I had to be prepared for anything, to face whatever was coming my way. And then, just as I was about to hang up, the friend answered. "Hello," she said, her voice cautious. I took a deep breath and launched into the conversation, my heart racing with anxiety. "Hi," I said. "I'm looking for my daughter. Do you know where she is?" There was a pause on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought I had lost the connection. But then, the friend spoke up. "I think I know where she might be," she said. "But you have to promise me you'll be careful." I felt a surge of hope and excitement, my mind racing with possibilities. What did she mean? And where was my daughter? I knew I had to find out. "I promise," I said, my voice firm. "Just tell me where she is." There was another pause, and then the friend spoke up. "She's at the old warehouse on 5th and Main," she said. "But be careful, there are some bad people involved." I felt a surge of fear and anxiety, my mind racing with possibilities. What was going on? And what did my daughter have to do with it? I knew I had to find out, to face whatever was coming my way. I quickly thanked the friend and hung up the phone, my heart racing with anticipation. I knew I had to act fast, to find my daughter and get some answers. I quickly got back in my car and started driving, my mind racing with thoughts and fears. As I drove, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. My daughter was in trouble, and I had to find her before it was too late. As I arrived at the old warehouse on 5th and Main, I could feel my heart racing with anticipation and fear. What was I going to find inside? Was my daughter okay? I took a deep breath and stepped out of the car, my eyes scanning the surrounding area. The warehouse was abandoned and looked like it had been out of use for years. I could see broken windows and a crooked door that seemed to be hanging off its hinges. I felt a surge of fear as I approached the entrance, my mind racing with worst-case scenarios. What if something had happened to my daughter? What if she was hurt or worse? I pushed the thoughts aside and focused on finding her. I slowly opened the creaky door and stepped inside, my eyes adjusting to the dim light. The warehouse was musty and smelled of decay. I could hear the sound of scurrying rodents and the creaking of old wooden beams. I called out my daughter's name, but there was no response. I moved deeper into the warehouse, my heart pounding in my chest. Suddenly, I heard a faint noise coming from the back of the warehouse. I moved quickly towards the sound, my eyes scanning the area. That's when I saw her. My daughter was sitting on the floor, her back against the wall. She looked pale and scared, but otherwise unharmed. I rushed towards her, relief washing over me. "Thank God you're okay," I said, hugging her tightly. But as I looked around, I saw that we were not alone. There were several people in the warehouse, including the CEO of the corporation that had been embezzling money. They looked guilty and scared, and I could tell that they knew they had been caught. My daughter looked up at me, tears in her eyes. "I'm so sorry, Dad," she said. "I didn't mean to hurt you or anyone else. I was just desperate and stupid." I hugged her again, feeling a mix of emotions. I was relieved that she was okay, but also angry and hurt by her actions. "We'll deal with this later," I said. "Right now, we need to get out of here and go to the police." As we walked out of the warehouse, I could feel a sense of closure and justice. My daughter had made a mistake, but she was taking responsibility for it. And the people who had hurt us were going to pay for their crimes. We went to the police station and told them everything. The CEO and the others were arrested and charged with embezzlement and other crimes. My daughter was charged with a lesser crime, but she was given a second chance. She was sentenced to community service and counseling, and she was able to turn her life around. I was proud of her for taking responsibility for her actions and for seeking help. As for me, I was finally able to find closure and move on from the past. I had been hurt and betrayed, but I had also been given a second chance. I was grateful for that, and I was determined to make the most of it. In the end, justice was served. The people who had hurt us were punished, and my daughter was given a chance to redeem herself. I was proud of her for taking that chance, and I was grateful for the opportunity to forgive and move on.